So let's begin. So first of all, you need to head up to the Jenkins official website, which is jenkins.io, and then you'll see something like this. Now for downloading the Jenkins, you can click on download right here, and you'll be redirected to the download page. All right, so for downloading this, you can head down and you can install the stable release right here. For this, you can click on Windows if you're using a Windows device. If you're using Linux or Ubuntu, you can click here, or you can also install that using Docker as well. All right, so I'll just install the Windows installer right here, and this will install a Windows installer file for me. All right, so I've already installed it, so I'll show you how it works. All right, so for this, you need to click on Jenkins installer, and then it will start the setup process. All right, so I'll just choose the setup process right here. So I have already downloaded Jenkins in my system, but it is just a simple series of steps followed through the Jenkins installer, so you'll be able to follow that easily. One more important thing while installing Jenkins is that you need to have Java 17 or Java 21 installed inside your system. So for that, you need to install Java, and for that, you can head up to the browser and search for Java 21 or something like Java 17 if you want to download the 17 version. Just head up the Oracle website, and then you can uh, click on JDK21 and just install this package right here, which is and you can head up to the Windows section right here, and you can install the 64-bit installer right here, and that will install the installer for you, and you just need to follow through some simple steps when installing Java in your device. All right, so for Jenkins, while installing Jenkins, it will ask for the path of your Java file. So you just need to refer to that path while selecting the directory of that Java folder. All right, perfect. So we have now installed Jenkins successfully, and now I'll show you how Jenkins work. So head up to the installed Jenkins folder. Usually the Jenkins folder will be present inside the program files folder, and this will be present right here, Jenkins. So for starting Jenkins, you can just click on Jenkins application right here, and we'll start Jenkins for you. And now I'll just show you how Jenkins installation works. So first of all, it will ask the destination folder of your Jenkins. I'll just keep it as default and then move forward. And for this, I can actually choose a service as a local or domain user where I can set the account and password where I need to write in the account and password for my device, or you can just choose the service as local system, which will be able to run on a local system only. So I'll just choose this as local system itself right now, and then we can move forward. All right. So for this, we need to have the port 8080 free. So I'll just test the port, which is free right now. So that's perfect. And then we move forward. Now we need to select the path of our Java folder as discussed before. So I'll just change this to the Java folder right here, and I'll select that and just click on next. All right, so you actually need to select the JDK21 folder. All right, perfect. And now you can just click on next as well and install Jenkins right here. So this will start installing Jenkins for you, and it will run it automatically as well. So let's wait for it to install, and then we'll move forward. All right, so our Jenkins has been installed. Now we will try to access Jenkins on our local host. So for that, you can head up to your browser, and then you can type in localhost and the port 8080. So let's try to access this. And perfect. So we have set up our Jenkins server right here, and it says we need to write the admin password, which is present at this directory as well, which it states clearly. So we'll head up to this directory. So I'll just copy this path right here and go inside my folder, and I'll just paste the path right here. So this will ask me to open this file. I'll just choose notepad right here, and this is the password right here. Perfect. So I'll just copy this password and I'll paste it right here. This should make me log in my Jenkins server. And perfect. So we have installed Jenkins. Now you can install the suggested plugins, or you can select the plugins you want to install. I'll just keep it as default and install the suggested plugins. And now it will start installing the plugins for me. So perfect. That's how you actually set up Jenkins server in your local device. And now you're ready to work with Jenkins for your system. Perfect. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're diving into Jenkins, the powerhouse of continuous integration and continuous development, which is CI/CD. But instead of complex installation, we'll set it up inside a Docker container, which is pretty fast, simple, and scalable. So let's begin. So first of all, we need to check if Docker is installed or not. Alright, so for that you need to open your terminal, and then you can run the command docker hyphen version. And for me, it is installed, so it is returning a valid Docker version. But if it is not installed for you, you can install Docker. For installing Docker on a Windows system, you can simply head to the Docker's official website, which is docker.com, and then download the Docker uh, Windows installer from this button right here. And you can click on Download for Windows, and this will install the installer for your Windows device. All right, so you can install that by clicking this button, and then you will be redirected to the installation response. All right, so after you have installed the Docker installer, then you can set up the Docker on your system. It is a straightforward process. You can simply follow the steps, and Docker will be set up in your device. All right, so for Linux, you can follow certain commands like sudo apt install docker.io and sudo systemctl start docker, which will start the Docker service in your Linux system. It is fairly simpler in Linux than Windows. All right, so let's move on to our Docker desktop now. So for first of all, we need to start Docker service. For that, you can just start up the Docker desktop application, and it will start the Docker service for you itself. All right, so let's wait for Docker desktop to open, and then I'll show you the steps further. All right, so you can see Docker Desktop is now running and it is opened. So for the users who are using this for the first time, this will first pop up you to sign in using your Google account or GitHub account or any kind of sign up methods. After signing up or signing in, you will be redirected to this dashboard. All right, so now working with this dashboard, I can simply run my Docker commands in this terminal, or I can something like Docker hyphen version, and this also returns me the Docker version, or you can simply run your commands in command line of your device as well, which will return the same output. All right, perfect. So for simplicity, I'll just run the commands here. And now, first of all, to set up Jenkins, we need to pull the Jenkins image. So I'll show you how you can pull the Jenkins image. We can pull the Jenkins from the official Jenkins Docker hub account, which is docker pull Jenkins, and then we can pull the Jenkins image from that, and we can simply pull the latest tag of that image. Alright, so after running this command, uh, the Docker will try to pull this image. And so yeah, you can see the Docker is pulling the Jenkins image from Docker Hub, and now we'll wait for it to pull the image, then I'll show you the steps further. Alright, so we have successfully pulled our Jenkins image to our system. So now we can move forward to setting up Jenkins container on our system. So for this, we can simply run the docker run command and run our Jenkins container. So for this, I'll show the command, which can simply be written as docker run. And then I will bind the ports, which is the port 8080 on which Jenkins usually runs. So I'll bind the port 8080 to 8080 and also the port 50,000 to the port 50,000 as well. And then we can just name this container something like Jenkins container. And for the other parameter, like -v, we can save the Jenkins password variable in Jenkins home hyphen slash where slash Jenkins home. And then we can simply refer to our image, which is Jenkins slash Jenkins hyphen LTS. So this is the image name. And now after we run this command, we should be seeing our Jenkins container live on our device. So let's run this command. All right, perfect. So you can see we have successfully started our container, Jenkins container, which is popping right here. And it is running on two ports, which is 8080 and the 50,000 port, which is perfect. So usually we can access the Jenkins from the 8080 port. So I'll just show you how you can access this. I'll just go to localhost 8080 and as you can see, we have set up Jenkins successfully and it is asking for admin password here. So for this, you can simply, as it says, that the password is located on this directory. So we can head up to this directory inside a container and get our password right through. And one more thing, when you start the Jenkins container, initially you'll see these commands and also you'll also get to see something like this may be also found at where slash Jenkins home slash secret slash initial admin password. So just a little above this, you'll see the password, which is here. And this is actually your admin password. So you need to copy this. Oh, it actually closed my container. I'll just restart it again. All right, and I'll just copy this password now. And I'll paste it right here and continue. All right, so as you can see, we have successfully logged in our Jenkins setup, and it is asking me to install suggested plugins, and I can just click on install suggested, and I can just click on install suggested plugins and move forward, and this will install the default plugins which are available for my Jenkins setup. All right, so that's how you basically set up a Jenkins server on your local host or on your device. And yeah, so yeah, that's it for the video. How you can configure Jenkins for your first time use. All right, so in the previous video, we have installed Jenkins successfully and we saw this screen at our local host. So I am running Jenkins currently on localhost 8000, but it usually runs on the port 8080. All right, so I'll show you how you can configure Jenkins. So first of all, you need to enter the administrator password here if you want to log in into Jenkins. So currently I'm running Jenkins using Docker right here. So for this, for getting the password here, I need to execute a command inside the container. For that, the syntax goes something like Docker exec hyphen IT and the name of the container, which is Jenkins container for me. And then I can simply copy the variable inside the directory, which is something like slash where slash Jenkins secrets. and slash initial admin password. Alright, so this is the exact directory present right here. We need to get the variable from this. Alright, so if I execute this command, I should get the contents of this file. So I've got the password right here. This is the actual password which we are going to use to log in inside Jenkins. Alright, so if you are using Jenkins on your local device by using the installer and installing the Jenkins from that, then you need to access another file inside your system which will be present on the directory which will be written right here. So basically you have to get the contents of this directory and you'll get your password. So I've got the password here and now I'll log in inside my Jenkins server. All right, so we have logged inside our Jenkins server and it says resume installation. So before this, I got a screen which stated install suggested plugins or customize installation. So I had installed the suggested plugins. So it has started installing the default plugins for me, just like the screen. So I installed suggested plugins just for the time being, and it starts installing the suggested plugins right here. Perfect. So after we have installed the suggested plugins, then you'll see something like this, which is create first admin user. So now you can create a user right here. So I'll just create a username with something like admin, and then I can choose some kind of password, and I can confirm that password. I can write in my full name, and then I can also write some email address. All right, so I'll just save and continue this. Alright, so I have created a user here and now it asks me for the Jenkins URL. This is a URL where your Jenkins server will be actually running. So for me, it is currently running on localhost. But if you wish to deploy your Jenkins server on some EC2 instance or a Google Cloud virtual cloud server, then you can enter the public IP address of that server and the 8880 port for that. So for this, I'll just keep it as localhost 8080 and then I'll click on save and finish. And that's it. So Jenkins is ready and the setup is complete. So now you can actually start using Jenkins and you can see the dashboard right here. So now you can create the jobs, you can set up agents and configure cloud and everything you wish to do with Jenkins right here is present. So that's how you set up Jenkins for the first time use. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and today I'm going to show you how you can set up your first Jenkins pipeline using a Jenkins server. Alright, so in the previous video, we have learned how we can set up a Jenkins server on our system. And as you can see, I have opened my Jenkins portal right here. So now we'll set up a Jenkins pipeline, which will be used to automate certain tasks like building images for a GitHub repo or any other tasks you would like to automate like deployment or anything else. Alright, so let's begin. So first of all, we can see the dashboard of Jenkins like this on our screen. And now for creating a pipeline, we can click on the new item button right here. So you can now enter the name of your pipeline. I'll just enter something like test pipeline. And for this purpose, we'll just create a simple pipeline. So we'll just, there are two types of pipelines, declarative pipelines and scripted pipelines. So for this process, we'll just create declarative pipelines, which are simpler to create. And so the scripted pipelines, while on the other hand, are more flexible but complex, which are written in Groovy language. All right, so now I'll create a new pipeline job. I'll just select pipeline. And for this, I'll just create OK. After clicking on OK, we can see we are redirect to the configuration page of our pipeline. So for this, you can keep some kind of description and we can skip this for now. And then we can skip the triggers for now as well. These triggers will be used to actually trigger the build request in our Jenkins. So if supposedly you are using build periodically, then periodically the request for building the Jenkins for building Jenkins pipeline will be triggered periodically. All right. Similarly, GitHub hook trigger is the same thing. We can configure a GitHub hook trigger to actually trigger the build of our pipeline. All right. So for this purpose, I'll just keep it locally pipeline script using a pipeline script. So I'll show you how you can write a sample Jenkins pipeline script. You can also choose some samples from here, like these. They have hello world. So I'll just show you how you can create a simple Jenkins file script for this purpose. All right, so first block is the pipeline block, which is the main block of the script. Then going inside, we have the agent block. For this, we will just select any. Then we have the stages block, which actually declares the different stages which our Jenkins build is going to have. All right, so first stage, this is written as hello, but for real world applications, there can be stages like build, test, and deploy. So I'll just demonstrate how we can use those stages in our Jenkins file. So I'll just rename the stage as build. And then for here, I will just write building the application. So after the stage block, we have the steps block. The steps block which will have actually the functions or steps which need to be taken when the process is in the stage of build. All right, so after we have completed the stage of build, we move to the next stage block, which is something like maybe you want to create the testing stage. Then for this, we can write the steps as well. So for the steps, I'll just write here echo for now, but in real life, you can have certain steps like maybe testing the file using the test.py file or something like something else. So for this, I'll just keep it running tests, something like that. And then I can have the last stage, which is deploy. And for this, I can have the steps as just echoing something like deploying the application. All right, so we have written a basic Jenkins file for now. So I'll now click on apply and then save this pipeline for now. All right, so for the pipeline, we can see we can click on build now here to build our pipeline actually. So we can start the build by clicking on build now here, and it says build scheduled. For all the logs of build, you can see here. And if you click on this, you can see the console output. So you can clearly see started by user me, and then it is running on Jenkins. And then here starts the process of stages. So we have first stage, which is building the app. Then we have the next stage, which is building which is running tests. And then we have deploying the app. And finally, you can see finished success, which means our Jenkins build was completed successfully. So that's how easy it is to actually make a Jenkins file for automation. In future videos, we'll see how we can advance to deploying an application, creating Docker images and pushing it to AWS ECR Docker Hub automatically whenever your code is pushed to GitHub. So this is called continuous integration and continuous deployment. All right, so I'll just show you how you can create a Jenkins file on GitHub repository and then connect it to the Jenkins pipeline. All right, so for our test pipeline, I can go to configure now. And as you can see, we have currently configured the pipeline script here. If I want to get the script from a GitHub repo, I can click on pipeline script from SCM. So the SCM for us is Git right now. And for the repository URL, I'll just select a random repository. I have a test Django repository here. So I'll just add a file here and I'll name it Jenkins file. This is the standard name. You can name it anything you want. You just need to change the path inside the Jenkins server for that. All right, so for now, I will paste the same file which is present there. I hope it is saved. Yes, it is. So I'll save it here and then I'll commit changes and just create the Jenkins file inside my repository. Perfect. So now I can go inside my Jenkins server and click on pipeline script from SCM. So for the repository URL, you can clearly select this URL and just paste it here. If your repository is private, then you also need to create credentials here. I'll show you how you can create credentials inside Jenkins. So for that, you can click on add Jenkins credential, and then you can click on global credentials. It can be good. You can leave it as global credentials. Then we have the kind, which is username with password. But for GitHub login, we can simply use GitHub app. This will allow us to store a GitHub app password here, but you can also actually store a username and password here. So you can put your GitHub username here and GitHub password here. For the ID is just the ID of this credential, this whole Jenkins credential, which we'll refer to in the dropdown of credentials. Alright, so that's all. That's how you can create a credentials variable in Jenkins and use it for your credentials dropdown here. Alright, moving forward, after entering the repository, we can specify the branch here. So as you can see, we are in the main branch right now. So I'll just write in main branch here. Perfect. And the script path is basically the path of Jenkins file from the root of your repository. So it is currently in the root of my repository as well, which is named as Jenkins files, which is the default right here. Perfect. So now I think I have configured my Jenkins pipeline for accessing the GitHub. So now I'll click on apply and then save the pipeline right here. Alright, so I have saved the pipeline here. If I go to changes, there should be none changes because the pipeline is actually this, because the Jenkins file is actually the same. Now if I click on build now, it should be able to access the repository from the repository, and it should be able to access the GitHub account and then also get the Jenkins file from there. So let's just wait for this to execute and I'll show you how it works. Alright, so as you can see, we have successfully built. Uh, the build has been successfully completed. If I go to console output, you can clearly see that the process starts like obtaining Jenkins file from GitHub, this repository path, and then it runs on Jenkins. Then it select the Git installation does not exist, so it uses the default Git tool. So there are no credentials specified because it was a public repository. So they were never needed for that. So the first step Jenkins does is clone the repository here, and then it gets the Jenkins file, and then it executes the Jenkins file on this system. So the Jenkins file, as you can see, it just had few commands, which was the same: building the app, running tests, and deploying the application. And at the end, we can see finished success. So that means our pipeline has run successfully and the build was completed perfectly. So that's how we can actually use Jenkins for creating a pipeline and automating the processes. In further videos, we'll see how we can actually integrate these with real-time projects, maybe building a Docker image and automating the process of deployment as well. So that's it for the video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how you can set up a periodically scheduled pipeline inside Jenkins. So let's begin. So first of all, we are heading to the Jenkins dashboard, and now we can see we will create a Jenkins pipeline, which will automatically uh, run the Jenkins file, which will build the Jenkins file automatically after equal interval of time. So let's begin. So first of all, I'll just create a pipeline here. For that, I'll go to new item, and then I'll select some pipeline name. And now I can click on pipeline, and I'll just click OK. After this, I can fill in the configuration details of our pipeline. So for this, I can just leave description empty and then go down for the trigger section. Now I can click here, build periodically. So for the scheduled, this is the schedule format which you can follow. This is a simple format which states that star specifies all valid values, and basically you want to create a combination of minute, hour, date of month, and then date of week. So this combination will set the schedule. Supposedly, for example, if I want to set up a schedule of every 5 minutes, then I'll write in h/5 and then star, 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 star. So this is a schedule of every 5 minutes. As you can see, it would last have run at Thursday, 3rd April at 12:43, and then it will run at 12:48. So for this purpose, I just set the schedule to be every minute so I can show you the demonstration quicker. So I'll set it up at star 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 star, which actually means that it will run every minute. So this is, do you really mean every minute? Yeah, I mean every minute. So after that, I can go down, and now for the pipeline, for the actual pipeline, either you can run the pipeline script here, or you can use the pipeline script from SCM. I'll just use the SCM for the Git. For the repository, I have a test Flask app right here, and copy the repository URL from there and paste it here. This is a public repository, so I do not need any credentials. If that is a private repository, you need to have credentials for that. And for that, you can create an app token inside your GitHub account, and you can just give some permissions like reading the repository, so the Jenkins can actually read your repository. And for that app token, you can then create a credentials inside Jenkins with the username with password type, and then you can write the username and password, which is the app token for your GitHub account. Alright, so after you have entered the repository URL, now we can move forward, and now we can add the branch to build, which is the main branch right now. And I can just keep all other options as it is. For the script path, this is the path relative to the root of repository. So this is actually Jenkins file. As you can see, the Jenkins file is present inside the root of my repository at GitHub. Alright, so now I can save this configuration, and I think we are done. So our pipeline is ready. This pipeline shall run every minute periodically. So let's just wait for a minute and see if the pipeline runs or not. So as you can see, it has run automatically, and this has run. This, if I go to console output, it just states all the output, which is a standard output for a Jenkins file build commands. So I had 3 commands which just said building the app, running tests, and deploying the app. These were just echo commands. And before that, there are just uh, GitHub logs, which just means that Jenkins was fetching my GitHub information and the repository information as well. All right. So since I think we should also see the next build running soon, because we have actually set it to builds every minute. So let's just wait and test if our schedule works or not. All right, so as you can clearly see that the second build has already started. So that means our configuration is working perfectly fine, and a build is running periodically after every minute. So that's how you can set a periodically running Jenkins pipeline inside your Jenkins server by just configuring that to the trigger to the build periodically. Alright, so guys, that's it for the video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and I'm going to show you how you can set up a Jenkins pipeline where you have to use poll SCM for build schedule. So I'll show you how you can use poll SCM for build schedule. So poll SCM is basically a type of scheduling where the builds get built once there's a change in a repository. So poll SCM will uh, continuously check out your repository, and if it detects any kind of changes in a repository, then it will start the build. So we can actually choose a schedule for the poll SCM. If I choose that poll SCM needs to detect the changes every 1 minute, then it will detect the changes in the repository every 1 minute, and if it detects a change, then it will start the build process for the repository again. All right, so I'll show you how you can set up a poll SCM pipeline in Jenkins. So you can go to new item, then you can just select any kind of any name, and then select the pipeline type here. Now I'll create this pipeline, and now go down. You can see the option for poll SCM. So I'll click on poll SCM, and if you can choose the schedule here. For the schedule format, you can click on the question mark right here, and you can see that we have 5 inputs here: minute, hour, date of month, and then date of week. So if I choose star 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 star, so that means it will uh, automatically schedule that every minute, because that just means every day of the week, every month of the week, every day of the month, and then every hour, and then every minute. So the star means all of the possible cases. So this also gives us a warning that do you really mean every minute? Yes, I mean every minute. So I'll just keep it for the testing purposes. If you want to test something like every 5 minutes, then you can keep h/5, which means that the schedule will run every 5 minutes. For now, I'll just keep it star for testing purposes so I can show you the demonstration quicker. And now I can see, I'll just go down and select the configuration for us. So we just need to have the pipeline script from SCM, and I just select the repository right here. I'll just choose the SCM as Git, keep the repository here. For the credentials, I'll just leave it as none, but if your repository is not public, if it is private, then you need to have the credentials for your repository. So for the credentials, you can click on add and click on Jenkins, and then you can click on username with password type, uh, uh, username with password type of Jenkins credentials, or you can also click on GitHub app type of credentials. For the username with password, you can just write your username of your GitHub account, and for the password, you can write here the app token, which you can create in your GitHub account from the account section. All right, so if your repository is public, you do not need to have the repository credentials right here. Alright, so now I'll just set up the branch here, which is the main branch. And I think I'll just keep every other thing as it is. For the Jenkins file path, I'll just keep it Jenkins file, because the Jenkins file is located at the root of my repository only, right here. Alright, so I'll just click on save, and my pipeline has been created. So now the Jenkins server will periodically check my repository every minute, and if there are any changes, it will build the repository Jenkins file again. Well, so now I'll just create a change here in my app.py file. This is just a test Flask application. So I'll just do something like print hello, and I'll commit that change. All right, so I have committed that change, and in here I should see the build processing in around 1 minute. And as you can see, we have the build right here. So the Jenkins server automatically detected the changes in my repository because it periodically runs the checks every minute and checks if there are any changes. If any changes are detected, then it will run the build again for our Jenkins file. Well, so as you can see, build has been completed. Now I'll just wait a couple of minutes and then again make a change in my repository, and I'll show you for the proof that it actually runs whenever there's a change in the repository instead of running every time scheduled like we did previously in the run scheduled section of pipeline. Alright, so we'll just wait for a couple of minutes and then I'll show you how it runs actually based on the changes in repository. Alright, so it has been a couple of minutes now, and now as you can see, there are no current builds after the first build because there has been no changes in our repository. But the Jenkins server is constantly checking for changes every minute as scheduled in the poll SCM scheduling. Alright, so now I'll make some changes in my repository again. So I have this file, I'll edit this file, and then I'll just remove this statement right here and just click on commit changes. Alright, so I've made the changes. I have some changes in my repository, so the Jenkins server should be able to detect those changes. So it detects the changes every minute, so we'll just wait for some seconds, and I think it should be able to detect the changes and then build the Jenkins file again according to that. You can see we have got the second build running here as it has detected the changes inside our repository. If I go to the git polling log, then you can see it says changes found, and also if I go to the build here and then I see the changes, I can see there are changes in app.py, commit number this, and by no reply because I committed that anonymously. So for the console output, this is the exact output which you would get by running your Jenkins file inside your repository right here. Alright, so that's how you can basically set up a poll SCM pipeline inside your Jenkins server, which will run periodically and check for changes inside your repository. And if there are any changes, it will run the Jenkins file build again for you. All right, so this was the pipeline, S4SCM pipeline, and that's it for the video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is our Jenkins series. So in the last video, we automated builds using GitHub integration, and now we'll take it a step further by using a Jenkins file to define a pipeline as code. This approach allows better version control, easy collaboration, and more flexibility. So let's get started. Well, so first I'll discuss about what is a Jenkins file. So a Jenkins file is a text file where you define a CI/CD pipeline in a structured format. Instead of manually configuring pipelines by Jenkins UI, we can write our pipeline as a code and store it in a Git repository. All right, so I'll just show you how you can do that in a few seconds. So Jenkins supports two types of pipelines, declarative and scripted. We'll just focus on declarative pipelines for now as it's more beginner friendly and widely used. Alright, so let's create a Jenkins file for a simple CI/CD workflow. So first of all, you need to head up to your GitHub repository. I have a sample Flask repository right here, and I will create a file here which will be named as Jenkins file. So I'll just name it as Jenkins file, and now I can write the content for this. So for the content, I can follow a standard Groovy format. Groovy is a type of format for a language or for a typing language. So I'll just follow this format, which is first of all, we have to create the pipeline block, which is the main block of commands for a Jenkins file. All right. So everything comes under this pipeline under this pipeline block. All right, so first of all, we have an agent parameter, and mostly we set it as any because we would allow any agent to be able to read our pipeline, to be able to read our Jenkins file and build the file content. All right, so we move forward to the stages block now. So for the stages block, as the name says, contains all the stages the build is going to have. So first of all, we can define the stages block with the name stages, and then we can move forward and declare each stage step by step. All right, so supposedly if we have a stage named something like checkout code, so I'll just name it something like stage, and I can name the stage myself. So I'll just name it something like check out code, and then I'll make the block for this as well. So in the checkout code, supposedly checkout code means that we're going to check the branch for any changes. So for this, we can add the steps. So first of all, we have steps, and then we can create the steps block right here. And then for the first step, we can have get, and then we can hit the request to this repository. So let's copy from here and paste it right here inside a string. All right, so this can just be written like this. And this was the first step, which was checking out code in this branch right here. All right, so after supposedly if this process is done, we can move on to the next stage. So we get out of the stage of checkout code and then move on to the next stage block. In this stage block, we can define it something like build. Supposedly if you're building a Docker image for the project, then you can write down the code here for building the Docker image for that particular repository. In the future videos, we'll see how we can actually create Docker images. We can actually automate building of Docker images of the repository through Jenkins as well. All right, so for now, we can just create a stage build. And for this, I can declare the steps as well. For the steps, I'll just keep it something simple right now, which is running a command shell by using the command sh. And then I can just run the simple command echo, maybe something building the application. All right, so I can run this command in the shell, which is just an echo command. All right, so I can move forward to the next stage now, which is supposedly after building, we get to test the application. So I'll just name this stage as test, and then I'll write in the steps for this as well. For the steps, we can have shell command running here as well, which is again for now just an echo command, which just says running tests. And then we can move forward to the next stage, which can be something like deploy. And for this, we can declare the steps, which for now is again just a shell command, which is echoing something like deploying. Alright, so for now, we'll just keep a Jenkins file like this, which has 4 stages, which is first of all checking out the code in this repository, then building the code, testing the code, and deploying the code. So this Jenkins file consists of multiple stages, as stated, and each stage represents a step in the pipeline. The agent any directive tells Jenkins to run this pipeline on any available agent. Alright, so now I'll just save this file, just commit the changes, and we have saved this file in our repository. Perfect. Now we'll go to the Jenkins dashboard and click on new item right here. Click the pipeline here. First of all, you need to enter a name. I'll just name something like test and select the pipeline item here. And I'll just create this item. All right, so now I'll configure this. So first of all, for this, we can simply configure this using pipeline script from SCM. From SCM, we can select get and we can enter the repository URL. If your repository is not public, right, like my repository, then you need to add credentials as well. For adding the credentials, you can click on add and then a Jenkins credential. And for the username with password, you can actually write a username here and the password right here for your GitHub account, or you can also use the GitHub app, which will have the app ID right here and the key which you create for an app inside GitHub for yourself. All right, so for now, the repository is public, so we do not have to care about that. And we can move forward and we can select the branch for the repository, which is the main branch right here. And I'll just keep everything else as it is. So the parameter script path means the path of your script of Jenkins file, which is Jenkins file itself on the root directory. Perfect. So I'll just create this. I'll just configure this pipeline now, and we have successfully created the pipeline here. Perfect. So for now, if you want to build uh, the Jenkins file content, you can click simply on build now and the build will be scheduled. You can see a build running right here. If you click on this, you can see what all is happening here. So I would like to see the console output. And for the console output, you can see all the steps are being executed in order. So after the pipeline, you can add post, which is the post basically after what happens after building pipeline. If we have the success, then we can run these commands. Maybe something like I can run here that and something like echo build successful, and on failure I can run the opposite, which is bad echo build fate. Alright, so I can save this now, commit changes, and now I can build Jenkins file again here by going to the pipeline and build now. Alright, so as you can see, my build has started. Alright guys, so as you can see, we have printed here successfully, which is build successful, which was actually what had to be printed after the post success of this pipeline. And one more thing is that the piece of code of post has to come inside the pipeline block itself. Alright, and the code will work perfectly fine. Perfect. So that's how you can basically run a Jenkins file for automation of processes inside your repository. And that's it for the video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to show you how you can automate Docker image builds using Jenkins. So let's begin. So in this video, we're going to learn how we can automatically build Docker images and push it to Docker Hub using Jenkins as an automating software. So first of all, I'll take you to my GitHub repository. So this is a test Flask app I have right here. So for this, we're going to create a Jenkins file which will automate the process of building the Docker image for this repository or project. And then it will push it automatically to Docker Hub once the build is successful. All right, so let's begin. So first of all, in this repository, we need to have a Docker file. So if you do not know how to create a Docker file for a test Flask app or a Flask app, you can refer to our previous videos. So I'll just show you what does a Docker file for a Flask app looks like. This is using the Python 3.10 Slim version, and then the work directory set to /app. Copying the requirements to our txt and installing the requirements. Copying the app content and then exposing 5000 port, and then we can run we can simply run the Flask start command, which is python app.py. So this is a sample Docker file for a Flask application. Now I'll show you how to create a Jenkins file, which will automate this process of building the Docker image for this application and then pushing it to our Docker Hub account. All right, so first of all, we can click on add a file. So we're going to add the Jenkins file for this project, and I'll just name it something like Jenkins file, and then I'll write the content right here. All right, so first of all, as we know, we need to have the pipeline block, which is the master block, and everything is going to come inside this. For the agent, we can set it to any, and then let's start with the actual code. So first of all, I'm going to set some environment variables. So I'm going to set uh, environment variables, something like image name, which is going to be the image name we're going to build and push. So this is going to be something like your username of Docker Hub, which is path2k3 for me, slash, and the name of a repository for the image you want to keep. So this is going to be test Flask for me. All right, perfect. So now we can move on to the stages of a Jenkins pipeline. So in the stages, we can first of all have the stage of checkout. So first of all, we can check out the changes inside our GitHub repository and then build upon the, and then we can build upon those changes and actually build the image and push it to the Docker Hub. All right, so for the stages, we can have the steps for the checkout stage here, the steps block. And for the steps, we simply have one step, which is just git, and we can simply write the URL of our repository, which is https hyphen star star github.com /. So I've written the URL for my GitHub repository. If you want to specify the branch here, you can specify the branch here by git branch main, and then the URL you can specify like this. All right, perfect. So now moving on forward, we can set the next stage of our pipeline, which is going to be building the Docker image. So for this, we can go to the next stage. You can get out of the stage block and then declare another stage named something like build Docker image. And then we can have the steps inside of this stage as well. So for the steps, we have simply a command which will run something like docker build -t and the image name. So for this, I'm using a Windows environment, so I have to use bat for this. If you're using a Linux, or if you are using it on your Linux servers, something like the AWS EC2, you can use sh for that because that's a shell command format for Linux. Also, you need to have Docker installed inside your system before running this file. So make sure to install Docker. If you do not know how to install Docker, you can refer to our previous videos as well. All right, so now I'll just run the command, which is bat docker build -t and then the image name. So that is stored inside our environment. So I can just refer to the variable with the %sign, image name, and then for the tag, I can just keep it as latest, and then I can select the path of my Docker file, which is in the root. So I just put a dot right here. Perfect. So our stage of building the Docker image is complete. Now we can move on to the next stage, which is pushing to the Docker Hub account. Push to Docker Hub. And here we can also have steps. So for the steps, we have a step with credentials. So I'm going to show you how you can create the credentials in Jenkins as well. But first of all, I'll just create this file to show you how it works. So first of all, in the steps, we can have something, a command called with credentials. And with credentials in the arguments, we're going to pass, first of all, the username password, the username password function, which we can refer to by in the square brackets. And then we can write username, password. This means that we have a username password type of credential, which we are going to create in Jenkins right here. So I'll show you how you can create the credentials inside Jenkins. First of all, go inside your Jenkins homepage dashboard and then go to the Manage Jenkins section. Go down and go to the credentials, and you can see we have all the credentials listed here. So for creating a global credential, which we can create here, I can click on global here and then click on add credentials. So for the type of username with password, which we are actually using here, referred by username password, we can add the username for Docker Hub account, which is path2k3 for me, as stated here, and the password right here. ID is just an identifier of this credential, so you can put anything you want. And then by clicking on create, your credentials will be created. I already have credentials with the ID name as Docker created, so we will use that. All right, so after the username password, we can have, we can declare our credentials ID, but credentials ID, and then I'm going to pass the name of my ID, which is Docker, and then I'm going to pass the username variable, which is going to be Docker user. This basically what happens is the credentials user will get the credential user will be saved inside the Docker user variable. And also similarly, you can save the password variable in Docker pass variable. All right. So we have set up our credentials now, and then we can go inside the block for this with credentials function, and then we can run a command, which will basically run the Docker build command or the Docker push command. We can have bat, and then we can run multi-line commands. I'll just use 3 apostrophes, and then we can use echo. First of all, we do echo the Docker password because our system should be able to access that password. So we have to echo that password. Don't worry, it will not be displayed publicly inside a console. It will be just visible to the system. Echo Docker pass, and then we can break the line. We can now log in inside a Docker using the Docker login command. Docker login -u. Then we can have the Docker user variable right here, which we got from the with credentials function. And then we can, for the password, we can just put it as hyphen password stdin because we have already echoed the password. Now we can run the Docker push command. So for running the Docker push command, we can run Docker push, and then the image name is going to be image underscore name variable, and the tag of the image is latest. Perfect. And then we can finally Docker log out as well, just to be ensured about it. That's all about our Jenkins file. So we have declared all the steps. So let's see if this Jenkins file actually worked now. All right, so I'm going to commit the changes and then move on to my Jenkins dashboard. Now we'll create a pipeline which will automate this process. So first of all, go to new item, select a pipeline name, and then select the pipeline item. Create the Jenkins pipeline, and now we can go down. If you want, you can use the triggers we have discussed before. I'll just keep it as manual build. So I'll take the pipeline script from SCM. The SCM is going to be Git. So I'm going to copy the repository link from here. And since the repository is public, I do not need any credentials. For the branch, I can specify it to be /main, and then we can move forward. I can say click on save right here, and then our pipeline will be created. So now I'll test this pipeline by clicking on build now button right here. And as you can see, my build has started. So let's see what's happening inside this build. Well, so I have to put semicolon after the branch right here, and it will work fine now. Now I'll try to build this pipeline again. And there was another syntax error, so let's just fix that as well. All right, so I've just fixed syntax for the stage push to Docker Hub, and now I'll commit this as well. All right, so hopefully it should build right now. Let's try building the pipeline here, and by seeing the console output, I think it is working good now. Yeah. So first of all, it has got the GitHub repository, and now it is building the Docker image. All right, so as you can see, it has run the command docker build -d path to get restart test flask, and it is starting the Docker file content as well. As you can see, all the Docker commands are being done right here. Perfect. So as you can see, it has moved forward to the next step, which is logging inside Docker, and it has successfully logged in, as we can see from the output as login succeeded right here. Perfect. And now it has run the push command as well, which is successfully running right here. So perfect. So let's just wait for this image to build and then push to Docker Hub. All right, so the process took around 3 to 4 minutes, and now we have got the final message, which is success. That means we have actually finished the Jenkins file successfully. Perfect. So let's now check our Docker Hub account and see if a test Flask repository is present or not. All right, so as you can see, we have got the test Flask repository right here. So that means we have successfully pushed the Docker image from the GitHub repository to Docker Hub directly by automating the process using Jenkins. So guys, that was it for the video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how you can push your Docker image for a test Flask app to AWS ECR using Jenkins. So let's begin. So we're going to automate this pipeline, and we're going to let Jenkins automatically push the code from test Flask repository right here, which I have made inside my GitHub account. And we're going to build the image for this, a Docker image for this, and then going to push it to AWS ECR. So we're going to see how we can automate this using Jenkins. So let's begin. So first of all, go to the Jenkins dashboard, and now here, first of all, we have to create a pipeline. So for this, we can create a pipeline using new item, and then we can create a pipeline. We can name it something like test or something you want. Then you can click on OK, and this will create the pipeline. All right, so I have to set up my general configuration for my pipeline now. If you want to set up a trigger, you can set up triggers. You can build it periodically or maybe using a GitHub hook trigger or poll SCM, but I'll just keep it manual for now. And going down, we can choose the pipeline script here, or I can choose the script from SCM. So I'll just choose the script from SCM, and for the SCM, that is going to be get for me. The repository URL, I can just copy and paste my repository URL, and since this is just a public URL, I'm not going to use credentials for this. For the branch, I can use main, and I can enable the star to explicitly refer to my main branch. All right, so now I'm going to save this configuration, and my pipeline is ready to work. All right, so first of all, we have to install some plugins for actually working with AWS. So go to dashboard for Jenkins and then go to manage Jenkins section. In the manage Jenkins, we can see, go down and see the plugin section right here. Click on plugins, and you can see we have in the available plugins, I think I had installed AWS here. So it should be present here, which will be present in installed plugins actually. Yeah, so for installing the AWS plugin, you can search AWS in available plugins, and it should return us an AWS credentials plugin, which we're going to use for this. So the plugin which I've installed here is the AWS credential plugin, which I'll just show you here. All right, so this is the plugin we require for actually setting up AWS account credentials inside Jenkins. AWS credentials plugin. All right, so let's move on to the next part. So now we'll create a credentials for our AWS account. So for that, we can again head to Manage Jenkins. With the Manage Jenkins, we can have all right, so now I can head to my credential section and then create a global domain variable here. Now click on Add Credentials, and in the kind, I can select AWS credentials here. For the ID, I can just keep it something like AWS creds. For the description, I can skip it. For the access key ID and secret access key, you need to have your AWS account handy now. So I'm going to go inside my AWS account and show you how you can access these. So first of all, head up to your AWS console, and then in the profile section, you can see security credentials here. Go to this area and then scroll down until you see something like access keys here. Now I can create an access key here, and then clicking on create access key, and here I have created it. So I'll just copy the access key here and paste it right here, and the secret access key as well, and I'll just paste it here. Perfect. So I'll just create this credential now. All right, so I have created this credential. Now we can move forward and work with our actual Jenkins file, which is present inside our GitHub repository. So for this, I've already set up a Docker file, which is a standard Docker file for a Flask app, which just have some instructions like inputting the Python image, and then working directory is being set to /app, copying the requirements.txt and installing the requirements, copying it from the root to root and exposing the 5000 port. Then I'm going to run the command, which is python app.py, and it's going to work great. All right, so let's move on. So now we can actually make our Jenkins file. So for the Jenkins file, I have to create a file named Jenkins file, which I've already created here. So we're going to edit this file now. All right, so I'm going to show you how you can create a Jenkins file, which will actually push your built image to AWS ECR. So let's start building it. All right, so first of all, we can create the pipeline block, which is the top level block inside a Jenkins file, and then we can set the agent to any. Moving forward, we can set some environment variables in the environment block. All right, so I'm going to set some variables like AWS region, which is going to be, since my credentials are for US East, if I select that, something like AP South 1, and let's see if we have those credentials here or not. All right, so we have that credential, so that's perfect. So we can move with our ECR account here, which is present inside the ECR service. So I can search in for ECR and go inside the repository. So I do not I have a repository here actually, which is named test. So I'm going to use this repository for this purpose. So for now, I will make the AWS region as AP South 1. And now I'm gonna name another variable, which is image name, which is gonna be something like test flask app or something like that, whatever you wanna keep. Moving forward, we can have the repo name, which is gonna be test in my case because I've already made the repo with that name. All right, perfect. So we have defined our environment variables. Now we can move forward to the stages. And for the stages, first of all, we can have the stage for checkout. So I'll just make a checkout stage here. And in the checkout stage, we can have the steps, which are just simply one step, which is git, and then the URL of our GitHub repository. All right, perfect. So those were the steps for checkout, and then we can move forward to the next stage, which is setting image tag, because we need to tag our image to AWS account in order to push it to AWS ECR. All right, so now I'll just tag the image here, tag the image, and I'll define the tags here. So for this, I can have something like, first of all, I can define the steps. And in the steps, I can go for having a script which will declare my image tag which is just going to be something like latest. I think that seems good. All right, so now we can move on to the next stage. Now, after tagging the image, we can have stage. This stage is going to be about logging into ECR. Log into ECR, and now we can have the steps here. For the steps, first of all, we can now refer to our AWS credentials here. So for the credentials, we can have, I think I forgot. No, I did not. All right. Okay. All right. So for the steps, we can first of all have our AWS credentials here, which is with AWS. And then for the region, we can set it to our environment variable. So that's going to be $, and then parenthesis. Then we're going to have env dot AWS region, which was our variable name in the environment block. All right. So after this, after defining the region, we can move forward to the credentials part. For the credentials, I can just write something like credentials, and the credentials are going to be AWS creds. This is the creds ID, which we chose in Jenkins. All right, perfect. So we have used our AWS credentials here. And with these credentials, I'm going to run some commands. So first of all, in the PowerShell, since I'm using a Windows machine, so I'm going to use Windows commands. If you're using Linux machine, you can just use sh for shell commands. All right, so I'm going to run some commands in PowerShell now, which are going to be inside these three apostrophes. So first of all, I'm going to run a command, which is $ECR login. So this is going to be a variable name. So I'm going to name it something like AWS ECR get login password hyphen region. All right. So for this, you need to have AWS CLI installed in your system as well. If you do not know how to install AWS CLI, you can refer to our previous videos and where I've taught you how you can install AWS CLI inside your system. All right. So I've defined the ECR login command right here. That's perfect. And after the region, I can refer to the region as well. So for the region, it's going to be something like my environment variable itself. So that's going to be environment.aws region. Perfect. So after this command, I can run another command, which is docker login command, which will actually log in our machine inside our AWS ECR command. So for that, it's going to be docker login hyphen username, which is AWS, and hyphen password is going to be the secret for our ECR login. So that's going to be ECR login. And after that, we have to refer to our actual repository URL. So that's going to be present right here. So I can just copy it here, and then I can paste it here with an HTTPS. And I think that's it. So I have set the command for logging to ECR. The next step is just pushing the image. So what I'm going to do is move out of this stage now, and then I can set another stage here. So for the stage, we can have something like, and one more thing that we need to remove the repository name here. We just need to have our account URL, URI basically. All right, moving forward, we can have something like another stage, which is building Docker image. So I'll just name the stage as build Docker image. All right, so moving with this stage, we can define the steps for this. And in the steps, we can have something like PowerShell. And then I'm going to define my commands. So first of all, I can have Docker build -t, and then $env dot image name. And then I can refer to the tag of that image, which is going to be $env dot image tag. All right, so that is going to be my Docker build command. And after this, I can I actually refer to my Docker file, which is present at the root. So I'll just put a full stop right here. And after that, I can tag this image. So I'm going to use docker tag command, docker tag. And again, I'm going to use this image because that's the name of the image that is being created now. And then I can tag it to my repository URL actually. So that is going to be this right here. I'm going to paste this here. And I think that's perfect. All right. So, and also I need to refer to the image tag, which is going to be latest. Yeah, it is latest indeed. So I'm going to tag my Docker built image to this AWS ECR account URI. Perfect. So after tagging that, I think we can move forward to the next stage, which is going to be something like uh, the stage is named as pushing to ECR. So I'm going to just name it push to ECR. And now I can define the steps for this. For the steps, then I can run the PowerShell command here. So the PowerShell command for pushing to ECR is going to be something like a simple command is the docker push, and then the tagged image right here. So that is going to be this exactly. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. All right, so this should be able to push our Docker image to our AWS ECR, and I think our Jenkins file is ready. So I'm going to save this file now, and now I'm going to try to build this Docker image using our Jenkins pipeline. All right, so now I'm going to click on build now, and let's see if our Jenkins pipeline works or not. All right, guys, one more thing. It says that um, hyphen password is insecure. Use password standard in. So I'm just going to use that inside my Jenkins file. So for this, I can use password standard in, and also I have missed a region somewhere. So I'm going to look out where did I miss that. Right, so I think I've missed it here. All right, so I'm going to refer to this using my parentheses. And I think I would have missed it somewhere else as well. It's like this. And I think I should be good now. All right, guys. So as you can see, the build has been completed successfully. So hopefully we should see the image being pushed to AWS ESR account now. So I'll go to my ECR now and just see if the image is present right there or not. And I'll go inside this. And yeah, so you can see I have the latest tag here, which is exactly the tag we had used for our Jenkins Docker build. So that's perfect. We have successfully pushed our Docker image to our AWS ECR account from Jenkins using automation. So yeah, guys, that's it for the video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how you can push and automate a Docker file and Docker image for a Java application to AWS ECR using Jenkins for CI/CD. So let's begin. So in this video, we're going to create a pipeline on Jenkins, which will automate the process of building the image for a Docker app or for a Java app inside a repository on GitHub, and then it will automatically push it to AWS ECR on successful builds. All right, so let's begin. So first of all, we need to head up to our Jenkins official dashboard, and then we can click on new item right here. All right, so I'm going to create a sample test pipeline here. So I'm going to click the pipeline item and then create the pipeline for us. All right, so for this, I will just skip the triggers because I'm going to manually build this pipeline. Moving forward, for the pipeline source, I can select the pipeline script from SCM and choose Git as the SCM source. For the repository URL, I have a sample Django application right here. So I'll just copy the URL of my GitHub repository and then paste it right here. Credentials, I do not need credentials for this because it is a public repository. But if it is a private repository, you need to pass some credentials. And we create one using Jenkins Connection Manager, and I'll show you how you can do that just soon. For the branch specifier, I can keep it as the main branch because the project is present at my main branch itself. Third part, I want to keep it as Jenkins file only because I'm going to eventually build the Jenkins file inside the root directory of my repo. All right, so I'm going to save this configuration for my pipeline and we can move forward. All right, so now I can go to the dashboard and again, I'm going to check some Jenkins credentials. So for the credentials, I'm going to create AWS credentials for this since we need to push our image to the AWS ECR. We need to log the Docker inside that AWS ECR from our Jenkins system. So for that, we need to get the credential section here and we need to create new variable in the global domain. Click on add credentials and you have to create credentials of the type AWS credentials. Now this might not be present by default inside of Jenkins dashboard. So for this, you need to install some plugins. To install the plugins for AWS credentials, you can go to Manage Jenkins again, and then go inside the plugin section. Now click on available plugins and now search in here AWS creds. I have already installed that. You can see that inside my install plugins section. If I search for AWS creds, and here it is. You need to install both of these, Python AWS steps and AWS credentials plugin that will enable you to use AWS credentials inside your Jenkins pipelines. All right, moving forward, now I'll create the Jenkins credentials here. So clicking on credentials, create the global domain, and then click on add credentials. Now on this, you can click on AWS credentials and you can add some ID for this, from your access use ID and your secret access key. So for the access key ID, you can head up to your AWS console, go inside the security credentials here. Now you can scroll down to the access key ID section. All right, so you can go to the access key section right here and create new access key if you do not have any access in there. I am using already one of these access keys, so it is all right for me. All right, so moving forward, I can enter the access key ID and secret access key here, and then I can just click on create to create the credentials. Currently, I already have AWS credits stored inside this ID, AWS credits. I'm going to use this credentials for my pipeline. All right, so I think we have set up our Jenkins dashboard here, and now we can move on to building our Jenkins file actually. So for this project, I have a sample Docker file here. This is a sample Docker file for a sample Django app. This is a simple Django app, does not have any complications. It is just a basic Docker file for that. And that's just importing the Python Slim version, setting up my environment variables, setting the work directory, and copying the requirements.txt to app, and then running some installation and requirements.txt, again copying the root of my directory to the app and exposing the port 8000, which is the default port for Django. And then I can simply run the command python manage.py run server, which is the start command for a Django application. All right, so now I'm going to build the Jenkins file. The Docker file is completely ready. Clicking on Jenkins file, this is a sample Jenkins file I had created before, demonstrating the sample how does Jenkins file pipeline basically work. So I'm going to edit this file now. So first of all, you need to have the pipeline block here. Type after the pipeline block, you can enter the agent, which is going to be any for my case. Moving forward, I can set up my environment variables if you have any. For now, I do not have any environment variables, so I can move on. Now I can set up the stages for this. So for the stages, I can have the first stage for this, which I can label something as checkout. So first of all, we obviously need to check out our GitHub repository for changes. For the stage, I can declare some steps. And in the steps, I'm going to have steps like get, branch, main, and then we can have the URL of our repository as well, which is going to be this URL right here. So I'm going to just copy and paste that here. All right, perfect. Now moving forward, I think we have completed the checkout stage. Now moving forward to the next stage, we can have the stage of logging into ECR. So we're going to log into ECR now in this stage.
How do we do that is, first of all, I'm going to define steps here, the steps block. And in the steps block, I can have first, I can use the command with AWS, which is going to use my AWS spreads inside my Jenkins inside my Jenkins account. So I'm going to use the with AWS function. And inside this, I'm going to define some things like region. So region can be, I think that will AP South one for me. So I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to put these in apostrophes. You can also put it AP South one inside the environment block after the agent parameter and then can access the region variable from environment as well. But I have hard coded it for now. Moving forward, then I can refer to the credentials here. The credentials for this is going to be the credentials ID, which I had said before, which is AWS spreads in my case. All right, perfect. Moving forward, I can now run some commands since I'm using a Windows device, so I can run the commands using PowerShell or BAT. But if you have a Linux device, you can use sh for running shell commands. For this process, you need to have Docker installed inside your system, whether you're running your system in the cloud or you're running your system on local machine. You need to have Docker installed inside the system. All right, moving forward, I can write the commands inside the PowerShell block. So first command I'm going to run is declare variable name password, which is going to be equal to AWS ECR get login password. And then I'm going to define the region here. So for the region, that is again going to be AP South 1. All right, perfect. So moving forward, I can now run the Docker login command. So Docker login, and then you can set the username to AWS. Now I can set up the password variable here. So password is going to be my password variable here, which is dollar password. All right, perfect. This should be able to log us inside our AWS EC account. One more thing I need to add is my repository URI for my ECR account. So I'm going to search in ECR service inside my AWS console, and I will just copy this URI and paste it right here. And I'm going to remove the repository here. So that's perfect. That's my repository address. And now I'm going to move forward to the next stage. So for the next stage, we have is building the Docker image. So I'm going to build the Docker image now. Just writing building Docker image. And now I can define the steps for this stage. So the steps, I will define the steps block and I'll run a PowerShell command. Again, this PowerShell command is going to be something about Docker build. So I'm going to run the command Docker build -t, and then I'm going to write my repository name here, which is test, and then the tag name for the repository image. So I just tag it something like Django, and then I can tag this image to my AWS account. For tagging the image, I can use the Docker tag command. So Docker tag test Django, and then I can paste my repository URL earlier, and then I'm going to paste the Django tag here as well. So I've tagged this image name to this image name because that's what we need eventually for pushing that image to ECR. All right, moving forward, we can define the next stage, which is actually pushing image to ECR. And for defining this stage, we can have the steps. For the steps, we can again run a PowerShell command here. So for the PowerShell command, we can run that inside the three apostrophe script. And now I can run the function docker push. I'm going to push this URI and the Django tag of this image. So that's it. I think we have developed our Jenkins file for pushing the Docker image to AWS ECR using Jenkins. So let's just commit these changes and now we'll see how it works. So I'm going to build this pipeline now and we'll see what are the outputs. Or as you can see, it has checked out of our GitHub repository first, and now it is doing inside the AWS credentials segment. Alright, so it has successfully logged in. As you can see, it has given us a message of login succeeded, so that's great. Alright, one more thing. I had actually missed the syntax of Docker build command. So actually after hyphen T and declaring the image name, I have to refer to the root in the path of my Docker file, which is actually the root. So I'm going to put a full stop right here, commenting the changes, and now I think it should be able to run perfectly. Let's just build this pipeline again. And I think it should run fine this time. Alright, so as you can see, it has started the pushing process to our AWS ECR account, and it is on the stage of pushing image to ECR. Now, let's just wait for this to push the image to AWS ECR completely, and then I think we should be able to see our image inside our AWS ECR account. Alright, so we have got the success message right here, so that means it should have pushed our image successfully to the AWS ECR repository. So let's check our ECR account now. So for this, I'll just go inside the test repo, and I can see that the Django image tag is present right here. So that means we have successfully pushed the Django image inside our ECR repository, and I think that was a success. So that's how you can actually automate the process of building a Docker image and then pushing it to the ECR on a local SCM or using the Jenkins file in Jenkins for your CI/CD pipeline. Alright, so guys, that's it for the video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and I'm going to show you how you can automate the process of building a Docker image for a test Django application and then pushing it to Docker Hub automatically using Jenkins. So let's get in. So we're going to use Jenkins for CI/CD for this process. And so first of all, I have test Django repository right here, and I have a Docker file in this. So Docker file is basically used for creating the Docker image for this Django application, and this is a standard Docker file for a Django application. Just using the Python 3.10 Slim version, setting up some environment variables, then setting up the work directory as well. Installing the requirements, copying the requirements, and then copying the whole project files. Exposing the 8000 port, and then running the Python manage.py run servers command, which is the default start command for Java application. And this is our standard Docker file, which will be able to create a Docker image for our Java application. All right. So for this, we also have a Jenkins file inside the GitHub root. So we're gonna edit this later. So first of all, let's go to the dashboard for our Jenkins here. So for the Jenkins, first of all, we're gonna do is create a pipeline here. So click on new item and select some pipeline name and select the pipeline item here. Click on OK and the pipeline will be created. So now we'll configure our pipeline. So for the triggers, I'm just gonna leave it for now so that I'll just trigger this build manually for now. But if you want, you can add some triggers using these parameters. Going forward for the pipeline script, we can have pipeline script from SCM. For the SCM, we can select the Git and then have the repository URL here. So for the report, okay, all right. So for this, we can have the repository URL from here, and then I can paste it right here. Perfect. I am not going to use the credentials because this is a public repository. But if your repository is a private one, you have to use credentials, and then you can create the credentials using this add button. And then going forward, I can select the branch for this. The branch is going to be main here. And the script path is just going to be Jenkins file. So I'm going to save the configuration now, and our Jenkins pipeline is ready here. Going to the dashboard. Now I'm going to set the credentials for my Docker Hub account. So go to the Manage Jenkins section here. Now click on Credentials and create a credential inside the global domain. Click on Add Credentials, and then you can click the kind of username with password. You can write the username for the Docker Hub account. So I have a Docker Hub account here. So I'm going to write the username here, which is this, and the password for my Docker Hub account. And I'm going to give it an ID, which is a unique identifier for this credential. So I have already created the credentials. As you can see, this is named Docker here. So I'm going to show you how you can access these credentials inside the Jenkins file and automate the process. Alright, so now we'll edit the Jenkins file here. So I show you how you can edit the Jenkins file and make it suitable for pushing it to Docker Hub automatically. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to define the pipeline block here. So I'm going to define the pipeline block, and then inside this, I'm going to set up the agent as any. Now moving forward, I can set some environment variables here. So for this, I will just set an environment variable, which is going to be the image name. So if I'm going to choose image name, which is equals to my username for the Docker account and slash the repository name I'm going to keep, or the image name I'm going to keep. So I'm just going to keep it somewhere like test Django here. I think I do not have repository with that name. Yeah, I do not have. Perfect. So moving forward from the environment block, we get to the stage block now. The stage block, we can define the different stages we have inside our Jenkins file and inside the Jenkins process. So first of all, I'm going to have the stage of checkout, which is the primary stage in any kind of work, including with GitHub repositories or Bitbucket repositories. So first of all, we have to check out inside our repository. So for that, we can have the steps. For the steps, we can just simply run the command git and then the URL for my repository. So first of all, I can also refer to the branch, which is going to be the main branch. And now for the URL parameter, I'm going to write the URL for the repository here, which is, I think I have already copied. Yeah, perfect. Sorry. Now moving forward, I can go to the next stage now. So for the next stage, we have is building the Docker image. So I'm going to write the stage name as building Docker image, and I'm going to define the steps inside this stage block now. So for the steps, the first step is going to be executing the script with the Docker build command. So with that, I can use PowerShell or that if you're using a Windows device. If you're using a Linux device, you can use SH for running the shell commands. Also, you need to have Docker installed inside your system, whether you are running on local devices or you are running on cloud devices. So moving forward, we have PowerShell block right here, and I will run the command, which is docker build -d, and then the image name, which is going to be declared by the environment. So I'm going to write in the image name. And after the image name, I can have the tag for this. So for the tag, I'm just going to keep it something like latest for now. All right. And then I'm going to choose in the dot, which represents the Docker file path. All right. So moving forward, we can have the next stage here, the stage of pushing to Docker Hub. I'm going to name the stage here, and I'm going to define this stage now. So for the stage, we can have the steps block, and in the steps block, we can now start working with the credentials we have created. So first of all, with the credentials block, and the parameters are going to be username, and parameters are going to be first of all the type of kind of credential that I have created. So that is going to be username, password, type of credential, and in this, I'm going to have the credential ID. So that's going to be credentials ID. That is going to be Docker Hub. For me, I had created a Docker name credential, so that's going to work. And for now, I can have username variable subject to the Docker user variable. So this is basically the username of our credentials, and that is going to be assigned its value to the Docker user variable. Similarly, I'm going to have the password variable assigned to Docker pass. All right, perfect. So moving forward, now we can get execute another script here. So I'm going to execute it with the help of PowerShell now. So for the script here, I have the command. First of all, I'm going to echo the Docker password here. So I'm going to use the echo command, and then I'm going to echo the Docker pass here so that my terminal is able to access this password. Don't worry, the password will not be displayed inside the console logs. Cut. Don't worry, the password will not be displayed inside the console logs. Moving forward, I can just go to pipe here and then click on Docker login command. The username is going to be the Docker user, so that is going to be stored inside Docker user variable. And then for the password, I'm just going to have it the standard input. This is the first thing I'm going to run. Then I'm going to run the command of Docker push. I'm going to push the image name, which I have stored inside variable name, environment variable as well. So that is the image name. Now the tag I had set, which was the latest tag itself. All right, so now I can just Docker logout, and that's it. That should be our script for our Jenkins pipeline. So I'll just commit the changes now and try to build this Jenkins pipeline through my Jenkins dashboard. All right, I'm going to do the Jenkins test pipeline. Now I'll click on build now, and it should probably start building the process as you can see, and now it will start running the stages inside the Jenkins file. So as you can see, we have the git checkout stage first, and it is getting all this content from the GitHub repository, and now it is running the build Docker image command through PowerShell. So as you can see, it has executed the next stage as well, which is building Docker image stage, and it has executed it pretty quickly. All right, so it has now started the process of pushing to Docker Hub, and as you can see, it is succeeded in logins and inside our Docker Hub account. So that's a good sign. That means it has started the pushing process. So we can see it is pushing the image layers. These are the different layers for the image, and we'll just wait for this to push it to the Docker Hub account, and let's see if it works or not. All right, so our pipeline has ended with a status of success. So that means it has executed successfully. And hopefully we should see the image inside the Docker account now. So I'll just refresh the repositories here. And we can see that we have got a repository with the name of path2k3/test Django. This is the exact image we had pushed from our Jenkins file. So that means it has worked successfully, and we have successfully pushed the images in the automation of Jenkins file. So that's it for the video, guys. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how you can install Blue Ocean inside a Jenkins server. So Blue Ocean is basically a Jenkins modern UI that makes CI/CD pipeline super visual and beginner friendly. So it is a pretty straightforward process. So we just need to install the Blue Ocean plugin for it from the plugin market, and that's it. You're set. And so I'll show you the process. So first of all, you need to go inside the Manage Jenkins section of a Jenkins server. Then you have to head up to the plugins here, and after the plugins, you can click on available plugins here and search for Blue Ocean extensions or plugins. So I have already installed the Blue Ocean plugins. I'll show you those inside my installed plugins here. And if I search for Blue Ocean, I should be able to see my Blue Ocean plugins here. Yeah, as you can see, this is the Blue Ocean plugin, which I have enabled right here. Perfect. And that's it. You have now installed Blue Ocean UI inside the Jenkins server. So I'll just show you how you can access that. Go to the dashboard of the Jenkins server, and then you can already see here open Blue Ocean button right here. Click on this, and you are redirected to the new UI for the Jenkins, which is in form of a blue sort of theme, and it is very visual, super beginner friendly. You can set up a new pipeline, you can just click there, and it will talk to you in a simpler way, which makes it very beginner friendly as well. So I want to where do you want to store, where do you store codes? If I choose GitHub, that's good. It just says I need to connect the GitHub here, and just that is super simple. So basically, Blue Ocean UI helps you to make Jenkins more beginner friendly and also more interactive, and makes the CI/CD process more easy. That's it for the video, guys. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how you can automate the testing process with Jenkins for a Django application. So let's begin. So first of all, we are going to see how you can run tests automatically using Jenkins. So first of all, I'll show you my GitHub repository for my Django application, which is just a test Django repo right here. So it has some content here. So as you can see, this is the application or the main app of my Django, and I have written the tests inside this test folder. So for standard tests file, you do name a test file something like test and underscore and the name of a test, the name kind of test you are performing. So I've just named it test underscore views.py. So I'll just show you the format for this file. So this is a basic test, a pretty basic test. It just hits the root URL of our Django server and then assert the output as 200. And then also we have a test form template content test, which just tests that I have the title tag inside my response from the root URL. So these are just two very basic tests I have run for Django application. So we are going to run this test. We are going to automate this test using Jenkins. First of all, I hope you guys know that to run the test for Django application, I need to run the command, which is python manage.py test. So that is enough for running the test inside your Django application. Basically, Django already supports testing, so that's why it is much simpler and also do not require any external libraries. All right, perfect. Moving forward, so now I'll set up the Jenkins file for my testing purposes. Before that, I'll set up a pipeline right here inside the Jenkins. So first of all, I'll click on new item and then I'll just name my pipeline, just naming it testing pipe. Now I'll select the pipeline item type and then click on OK to create my pipeline. For the configuration, I will skip the general here. I will skip the triggers right here because I'm going to manually build this pipeline. And then for the pipeline source, I can select the pipeline script from SCM. The SCM is going to be Git and the repository URL is going to be this. So I'm just swapping this from here to here. For the branch, it's going to be main branch and the path for our script is Jenkins file itself. All right. I click on save and we have set up our Jenkins pipeline right here. Perfect. So now we'll edit the Jenkins file here. I have created a Jenkins file inside the root sys repo. So now I'll configure this Jenkins file according to our requirements, which is automating testing for our Django application. All right. So first of all, obviously we need to define the pipeline block. So this is going to be pipeline. Inside the pipeline block, we can start with agent. I'm going to set the agent to any, and then I'm going to set some environment variables. With environment variables, I do not have as such any variables. I'll just set the name of the virtual environment. It's going to be VENV for now. Moving forward, we can now click start building stages for our pipeline. The first stage we will have is first of all checking out to our GitHub repo, which is the prerequisite in any kind of Jenkins pipeline for working with any kind of source management or version management. Moving forward, in this stage, we can have the steps. So for the steps block, I want to define the steps now. So for me, the steps is basically get branch, main, and then the URL is going to be this itself. All right. So I have checked out of my GitHub repository. Now moving on to the next stage, which is going to be setting up my virtual environment because I need to run a Python script for actually running the test. So I need to have a virtual environment inside my Jenkins environment as well. So first of all, I'm going to write the setting up virtual environment. And for this stage, I'm going to have the steps listed here. All right, so for the steps, first of all, I'm going to have the bat command here. Since I'm using a Windows machine, I have to use bat or PowerShell. If you're using a Linux machine, you can use SH as well. All right, so for this, I'm going to run the command by bat python -m, which is for making the virtual environment, venv, and in the name of our virtual environment, which is going to be inside the percentage signs, it's going to be the virtual, it's going to be the environment variable venv. All right, moving forward, I'm going to run the next command for us, which is going to be just upgrading the pip. You can also skip this command, but I just run this command just in case, just to maintain the version of pip inside my Jenkins server. So running this command, you can run venv going inside the venv folder. Then I can go inside the scripts, and then I can go inside the Python directory, and then I can click on -m, pip, install, -icon, upgrade, pip. That's one of the command for upgrading the pip inside our system. All right, moving forward, we can now install the requirements.txt. So that's going to be venv, -, scripts, // pip. We're going to install the requirements in pip. So I'm going to go inside the pip, then install, -r, require names.txt. All right, perfect. So we have completed this stage as well, which is setting up the working environments and requirement installation as well. All right, so now we can execute the final stage, which is simply running the tests inside our Django application. So I'm going to name the stage as run the tests. And for this, I'm going to define some steps here. For the steps, there's just one step for us right now because we're going to run the test using a simple command, which is python -.py test. So I'm going to run this command using my virtual environment, venv //scripts //python manage.py and then test. So just going to run all the tests inside my Java application, which I've written inside my application's tests folder. All right, so I'm going to commit the changes from here now, and now I'm going to try to build my Jenkins pipeline from my Jenkins server. So click on build now here, and let's wait for this to get built here. So I'm going to look on for the console output. As you can see, it is on the first page. Just check out. It is checking out to my GitHub repository. Now it is setting up the virtual environment, and as you can see, it is executing the command Python make virtual environment. So it is building a virtual environment right now. So let's wait for this to move forward. All right, so it has built a virtual environment now, and now it is upgrading the pip for us. After upgrading pip, it should be able to download the requirements. So let's wait for that as well. All right, so it has upgraded pip now. Now let's wait for it to download the requirements for us. There were pretty basic requirements in this. I think I had just put Django for now. So it should be pretty quick for us right now. After installing the requirements, it should start running this tests inside a Java application because we had the stage of testing here. So yeah, as you can see, it has run the test, and it also says that it has ran two tests in 0.024 seconds, and also it says the result, which is okay right here. It's trying to test database which it created for testing purposes, and that's good. I think the two tests which were there for my root URL has been executed and also ran successfully because it says okay for both of them. So perfect. So we have automated the testing process using our Jenkins pipeline here, and that's how you can automate the process of testing inside a Django application using Jenkins and a CI/CD tool. All right, guys, so that's it for the video. Hi, guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to show you how you can automate the process of testing your Flask application using Jenkins as a CI/CD tool. So let's begin. So first of all, we need to have a test Flask app here. I have a test Flask app here right here, and I've written some tests inside the root directory of our project, which are present inside this tests folder. So I'll just show you what tests I've written. I've written test, which is test underscore app.py. So this is a basic test for accessing the root URL and then checking if the response status code is 200. So basically it is a test for verifying if our server is running fine or not. Perfect. And also we have another test which just says that title should be present inside the response from root URL, which is another test. If you want to compare the output of your responses as well inside of testing purposes. Also, I have written some pretty basic tests right here. These are two major tests here. So I'm going to conduct these tests and automate these using our Jenkins pipeline. So let's begin. So for a Flask app, I have this repository. So I'm going to just copy this repository URL, and then I'm going to go inside the Jenkins dashboard. So I'm going to create a new pipeline here. I just name it something like testing pipe, and then create the pipeline type of item. For the configuration, I'll just skip everything. I do not need some triggers right here. I'm gonna build the pipeline manually here. So I'm gonna select the source of our pipeline script from SCM. The SCM is Git, and the repository URL is this. All right. My repo is public, so I do not need credentials here. But if your repo is private, you need credentials, which you can create easily using the Manage Jenkins and Credentials section. Or for the branch, I can choose the main branch here, and then the script path is going to be Jenkins file itself. All right, I'm going to save this file, and now we can build our Jenkins file inside our GitHub repository. All right, so I'm going to click on Jenkins file and now edit this file. So I'm going to teach you how you can run the test automatically inside Jenkins file, inside Jenkins server. So for eventually, if you run the test inside your local system, you have to run a command which is something like Python -m unit test fix discover -s test. So you can run these tests by unit test, and this is the format, this is the syntax of running a test command. So we're going to run this command automatically using Jenkins. So let's begin. So first of all, I'm going to define the pipeline block here, which is the standard block inside Jenkins file. Then I'm going to select the agent as any here. Then moving forward, you can set up the environment variables as well. So for the environment variables, I do not have much. I'm going to set some basic environment variables. Something like name of my virtual environment. It's going to be VENV for now. All right, moving forward, I can now define the stages here. So for the stages, I have the first stage as checking out GitHub. So this is the primitive stage in any kind of Jenkins file. So I'm going to just name it something like checkout Git. And the steps involved in this stage are simply Git, branch. Branch is going to be main branch for us. Then the URL, and URL is the one I had copied here. All right, well, so we have completed the stage. Now moving on to the next stage, which is going to be setting up my virtual environment. So I'm going to just write up setting up for VNV. All right, so for this stage, I'm going to define my steps here. So for the steps, we are simply having some steps like, first of all, we have to make a virtual environment. So I'm going to run the command back. If you have a Linux system, you have to run the command using sh. So I am on a Windows system. So I have to use bat or PowerShell for running the commands inside my command line. All right, so I'm going to use bat and then Python -m, VENV, and then the name of most environment is going to be VENV from my environment variables. All right, perfect. Going forward, I can run another command which is reading the pip for my system. So I'm going to run the command bat env slash double slash scripts double slash Python. And then I'm going to run the command -m pip install hyphen upgrade pip. This is the command we use to upgrade pip inside of Jenkins server. Moving forward, we can run the command for installing the requirements from requirements.txt. So the command for this is going to be back, and then again accessing my virtual environment through the virtual environment hyphen scripts pip. And then I'm going to install the requirements pip install -r requirements.txt. Alright, so that is going to be the basic syntax of requirement of setting up a virtual environment and installing requirements inside our Jenkins server. Moving forward, we can now initiate our final stage, which is basically running the tests, run the tests. So for this stage, we're going to run the tests in steps. So first of all, I'll define the steps block, and then I can run the command, which is simply the command, the syntax of command I had told you before. Python -m unit test discover -s test. This is the standard format of syntax for running the tests inside a Flask application using the unit test library. So the unit test library already comes with Python, so you do not need to install it explicitly inside your requirements. So for this, I can just run the command Python. So for the Python, I have to access my virtual environment. It's going to be virtual environment scripts Python, and then I can run the command -n unit test discover -s and then tests. So this is going to be the final command for another test inside our Jenkins server and inside our GitHub repository app as well, which is the test Flask app here. So perfect, we have developed our Jenkins file for running the test. I'll just commit the changes right here. And now I'll build this pipeline using my Jenkins server. So I'm going to watch this file now, watch this build now inside the console output. We'll see the stages right here. So first of all, it has run the checkout get stage. Perfect. And now it has also moved on to the next stage, which is Python env. So it has built the virtual environment and also it has upgraded the pip itself. And now it has started installing the requirements using the pip install -requirements.txt. That's perfect. So we have moved forward, and now I think the next stage should be running the tests. And if that runs successfully, I should see a success message right here. So it has started with running the test here. And perfect. So we have got a success message right here. That means the pipeline has run successfully. And also we can see after running this command, Python -unit test discover -s test, it has given us the output as ran 2 tests in 0.025 seconds. And also the result for this is okay. The hello was printed in some file, I don't know which file, but it was just printed in the code itself. So the OK here represents that both the tests were successful and passed the verification, and that means we have successfully run the test using Jenkins as an automation tool. So guys, that's how you can actually use Jenkins for automating tests inside your Flask application, and that's it for the video. So thanks for watching.